Imagine, just for a second, that you possess 16 years of highly complex, like incredibly specialized legal knowledge.
Right, like real mastery.
Yeah, exactly. You spent over a decade and a half just mastering the absolute labyrinth of a very specific country's labor laws.
Which is no small feat.
No, not at all. I mean, you know the loopholes, the traps, the recent constitutional amendments, just all of it.
The whole landscape.
Right. Now, I want you to imagine being able to deliver perfect, impeccably cited answers to anyone in the world at any time.
Oh, wow, yeah.
We're talking 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, and you are delivering flawlessly accurate legal context to, I don't know, a prospective client on the other side of the planet.
That's the dream.
It is. And the kicker here is you do all of this without ever even opening your eyes. You never even wake up.
It really is like the ultimate dream of the knowledge worker, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if you think about the history of professional services, right? Lawyers, accountants, consultants, their business model has always been fundamentally broken in one specific way.
How so?
Well, their inventory is time.
Right. Billable hours.
Exactly. To decouple your expertise from the physical constraints of, like, your own biological clock, that's the holy grail.
Yeah, totally.
You're describing a scenario where the value you provide to the market is no longer tied to how many hours you can physically stay awake.
Or how many grueling phone calls you can just endure in a day.
Exactly. Or how quickly your fingers can type an email. It's basically completely decoupling raw brain power from human bandwidth.
That is exactly the mission of our deep dive today.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. We are exploring a core, fundamental question for any modern business, which is basically how to scale expertise without scaling headcount.
Which everyone wants to do.
Right. So if you're listening to this and you run an accounting firm, or say a specialized marketing agency or a boutique consulting group, you are definitely facing this exact ceiling.
Oh, every single day.
Yeah. So today, we're zeroing in on the massive advantages of leveraging genuine AI architecture.
Like AI agents and digital employees.
Exactly. Using those tools to shatter that ceiling. And we have this phenomenal case study to ground the whole thing in, centered on a firm called Human Resource Management, or HRM, and their employer of record services down in Mexico.
What makes this specific case study so critical, I think, is that we are looking at real structural business transformation here.
Yeah, not just a gimmick.
Right. I want to be very clear right off the bat. We aren't talking about slapping a cute little chat widget in the corner of a website.
Oh, man. The ones that just say, hello, how can I help you?
Yeah, and then they inevitably fail to understand your basic question and just tell you to email support.
We have all interacted with those. They're infuriating.
Totally infuriating. Today, we are looking at a fundamental rewiring of how a specialist firm actually goes to market and operates at a systemic level.
Well, before we get into the real weeds of what HRM actually did,
Yeah.
I want to introduce the architect behind the source material we're pulling from today.
Yeah, the who really matters here.
It matters just as much as the what, honestly. So the mastermind here is Jesus Vargas.
That's right. He's the founder of an AI and software development agency called LowCode Agency, which he actually started back in 2019.
Which is eons ago in AI time.
Practically the Stone Age.
Yeah.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're dealing with, because, you know, when we say AI agency nowadays, people sometimes picture like two guys in a dorm room playing with ChatGPT.
Yeah, a couple of kids with laptops.
Right, but this is definitely not that. LowCode Agency has a 40-person global team.
That's substantial.
Very. They've shipped over 450 products for clients, ranging from first-time founders all the way up to massive players.
Like who?
Like Sotheby's, American Express, Coca-Cola, Zapier, and Medtronic.
Wow, okay. That client list is a crucial detail for us to really internalize.
How come?
Because when a team has delivered over 450 products for enterprises with the regulatory and operational scale of, say, an American Express or a Medtronic, their definition of what constitutes good software fundamentally changes.
Right, the stakes are way higher. Exactly. You aren't just trying to build a flashy demo to get clicks on social media. You have to build infrastructure that just does not break when it hits the messy reality of the real world.
It has to actually work.
It has to work under pressure. You have to intimately understand enterprise-grade risk, compliance, and, you know, just reliability.
And it seems like Jesus really recognized a very specific gap in the market, too, for companies that aren't quite the size of Coca-Cola, but are still doing serious volume.
The mid-market, basically.
Yeah. So he's also the founder of Foss AI Labs, which is the sister brand to LowCode Agency.
Gotcha.
It's an embedded AI lab designed specifically for serious companies generating between, say, $5 million and $25 million in revenue.
That's a very specific sweet spot.
It is. And they have this guiding philosophy that I really want us to keep in mind for everything we talk about today.
What's the philosophy?
Their philosophy is strategy first, then systems the right order for the right business.
Oh, I love that. I really love that philosophy because it directly attacks, honestly, the biggest, most expensive mistake companies are making with AI right now.
Which is what? Just buying random tools.
Basically, yeah. What do most businesses do? They read a headline, they get a massive case of FOMO, they buy a system or subscribe to a shiny new AI tool, and then they scramble backward to figure out what their strategy should be for actually using it.
We bought the AI, now what do we do with it?
Exactly. They hand a solution to their team and basically say, find a problem for this. It is entirely backward.
So Foss AI Labs flips that.
Right. What they advocate is that you must rigorously define the strategic business bottleneck first. Only after you understand the friction do you architect a system to solve it.
Okay, so we're going to view this entire case study through that lens, what it actually means to act as a genuine development partner.
Someone who builds structural solutions.
Right, rather than just a vendor who throws a piece of software over the fence and is like, good luck.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
So let's look at the client here, HRM. They are a firm with 16 years of incredibly deep single-country expertise in Mexican labor law compliance.
16 years. I mean, just let the weight of that sink in for a minute.
It's a long time to study one thing.
Think about how many obscure edge cases, how many strange regulatory updates, how many unique client disasters they have had to personally navigate in a decade and a half.
Yeah, I'm sure they've seen it all.
That is profound, hard-won, incredibly nuanced knowledge. You just cannot fake that.
You can't, but they were slamming into a wall. It's the classic battle of breadth versus depth.
Okay, how so?
Well, let's look at HRM's operational reality before they brought in Foss AI Labs.
Yeah.
They had this massive reservoir of knowledge, right?
Yes.
But they focused on one country, Mexico, and they operate out of one physical office.
Now, contrast that reality with what we call the horizontal platforms in their industry.
Right, the big guys.
Yeah, if you look at the employer of record or EOR space, you have massive players like Deal, Remote, and Rippling.
Sure, we see their ads everywhere.
Exactly. These platforms are absolute behemoths. They have billions in funding. But because they are global, they treat Mexico as just one checkbox among 50 or 100 other countries on their drop-down menu.
I really want to pause on that because I think this is a dilemma a lot of listeners face in their own industry.
It's super common.
The big horizontal platforms have this incredible global breadth. They have 247 coverage. They cover the whole map. But their depth in any single jurisdiction is, by definition, completely generic.
They have to be.
Right. They can't possibly have 16 years of localized nuance for every single country they operate in.
It's impossible to scale human depth like that globally.
But despite HRM having the superior depth and, frankly, a much better underlying product for Mexico, they were facing severe bottlenecks.
What kind of bottlenecks?
Prior to the AI implementation, HRM was only capturing 20 to 30 inbound leads a month.
Wow. Okay, we really have to ask why that number was so low for a firm with such incredible expertise.
Yeah, it seems crazy.
The source material actually outlines the friction perfectly here. Every single lead qualification required a human being on a phone call.
Ugh, that's so slow.
Right? Think about the friction for a modern buyer. If a prospective client has a highly specific question about, say, hiring an engineer in Monterey, they can't just get an answer on the website.
No instant gratification.
Exactly. They have to fill out a form, wait for an email back, schedule a time on a calendar, wait for the call, and then finally talk to a human just to find out if HRM can even help them in the first place.
And what if that prospect is like an HR director sitting in Ohio, and they get this sudden mandate to hire a team in Mexico, and it's 8:00 p.m. their time?
Yeah, what happens then?
Well, HRM's office in Mexico is closed.
Yeah.
The question simply sits in a general inbox waiting until the next morning.
Which brings up a really fascinating point from the sources about the phrase, expertise doesn't scale on its own.
That's a great quote.
It's a brilliant, slightly painful distillation of the whole problem. A specialist firm's absolute greatest asset is their deep, localized knowledge.
Right.
But structurally, that asset is imprisoned by the physical limits of human biology.
Wow, put like that, it sounds intense.
Well, it is. It's hindered by office hours, Human availability and just human fatigue.
Okay, let's look at the alternative for that HR director in Ohio, right? It's 8:00 p.m. They need answers now. What do?
They go to Google.
Exactly, they Google it. But the sources point out that the state of public information on Mexican hiring compliance is an absolute nightmare.
I can only imagine.
It's terrible. They just find fragmented, outdated information. And more importantly, a quick Google search completely fails to explain how all the different legal frameworks actually interact in the real world.
Right, because the law doesn't exist in a neat little vacuum.
No, it's messy.
Especially in Mexico, you have the federal labor law, but you also have Social Security regulations that dictate benefits and tax withholdings.
Okay.
And above both of those, you have overarching constitutional provisions regarding workers' rights.
So it's layers upon layers.
Exactly. How those three distinct, dense layers of legal text interact with each other in a specific hiring scenario, say, terminating an employee for cause is exactly what HRM understands in their bones after 16 years.
But our HR director in Ohio won't find that.
No, a prospect Googling at 8:00 p.m. just gets a mess of contradictory forum posts, SEO-optimized blog fluff, and generic summaries that are, frankly, legally useless.
Okay, I'm trying to picture this competitive landscape. If the big horizontal platforms, Deal, Remote, Rippling, if they're like massive global fast food chains, they're highly accessible.
Right, they're everywhere.
You can get a burger in Tokyo, London, or Mexico City at 2:00 a.m. It's 247, but the quality is entirely standard. It's generic.
It gets the job done, but it's nothing special.
Right. HRM, on the other hand, is the regional Michelin star chef. The chef's food is undeniably, objectively better. It is crafted with deep artisanal expertise.
I like this analogy.
But how on earth does a single Michelin star chef feed 1,000 people at midnight?
They can't.
They literally can't.
That is a perfect framing. And if you look at the broader market, this after-hours response gap that HRM was experiencing wasn't just a minor inconvenience. No, it was a massive structural disadvantage. If you are competing against 247 horizontal platforms and your doors close at 6:00 p.m., you are losing business simply because you are asleep.
That's wild to think about.
The prospect needs an answer right now. The fast food chain is open, so they go there, even if they know the food isn't as good.
Convenience just wins out.
The convenience outweighs the quality in that moment of absolute urgency.
So HRM realizes they have this structural disadvantage. They can't just buy a standard chatbot subscription for like $40 a month and hope for the best.
That would end in disaster.
Right. They needed a genuine development partner, Foss AI Labs, to build a system that met a very specific, incredibly unforgiving standard.
Let's talk about that strategic bar they set, actually, because in the legal and compliance world, the foundation of trust is just everything.
It really is.
Yeah.
The strategic bar that HRM set for Foss's AI Labs was, frankly, incredibly daunting. They needed to make that 16 years of expertise available 204/7.
Which is hard enough on its own.
But here is the critical mandate the AI had to source its answers only from verified legal documentation.
Not from the whole internet.
Exactly. Not from the vast murky soup of general training data that AI models usually use when you just ask them a random question.
And it had to capture every single interaction as a lead, and this is the claim that I immediately flagged when reading the case study. It had to introduce zero hallucinations.
Zero.
None. Zero margin for error.
Now, I have to play the skeptic here for a minute.
Go for it.
I use AI every day. It hallucinates all the time.
Oh, constantly.
It invents books that don't exist. It messes up basic math. Are you telling me there's absolutely no margin for error here? How is zero hallucinations even a realistic demand?
It is a massive claim, I agree. And it's exactly why we need to separate the concept of an AI wrapper from true architecture.
Okay, break that down.
Well, first, we need to understand the risk profile that forced that demand from HRM.
Sure.
If an AI hallucinates, meaning it confidently makes up a fake fact while writing, say, a marketing email or brainstorming blog titles, it's slightly embarrassing.
I just fix it and move on.
Exactly. But if an AI hallucinates a tax rate or misinterprets severance requirements while officially advising a foreign employer on Mexican federal labor law.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it is a catastrophic liability. In this space, a wrong answer is actively worse than no answer at all.
Because they'll act on the bad advice.
Right. It destroys trust instantly and opens up massive legal and financial exposure. So HRM couldn't accept 99% accurate. It had to be a structural guarantee.
Okay, I'm holding your feet to the fire on this, though.
Yeah.
How do you actually achieves zero hallucinations.
Yeah,
You can't just ask the AI really nicely not to lie, right?
precisely. You don't ask it, you physically constrain it.
Constrain it.
This leads us to the first part of the architecture that FOSS AI Labs actually built, which is the structured knowledge base.
Okay.
They didn't just point an AI at the internet and hope it found good sources. They built a walled garden of absolute truth.
A walled garden. I really like that visual. The sources detail the layers of this knowledge base, and it feels like a masterclass in information design.
It really is.
The primary layer was built strictly from the foundational texts. So the federal labor law, the Social Security law, the specific regulations, and the constitutional provisions.
That is the bedrock.
Right. But the law itself is often really dense and open to interpretation, right?
Very much so.
So they added a secondary layer, which is so brilliant. They took HRM's own proprietary expert articles, the practical insights they've gathered over 16 years of actually applying the law in the real world.
That's the secret sauce.
Yeah. They had those articles rigorously reviewed by HRM's in-house legal team for total accuracy and added them to the knowledge base to provide complementary context.
So the AI has access to the raw law and the expert interpretation of how that law plays out in reality.
That sounds great in theory, but getting that law into the system seems like it would be a complete nightmare.
Oh, it's the hardest part.
I was reading the source material, and it highlights a critical step that I think a lot of people gloss over when talking about AI, which is the data extraction pipeline.
Yes, the unglamorous stuff.
Apparently, the primary legal documents didn't arrive in a beautifully formatted, clean text file.
Of course they didn't.
They arrived in a highly complex mixed language format. Literally, one sentence would be in Spanish, and the very next sentence would be translated into English, right in the same paragraph.
This is a perfect example of the reality of working with real-world enterprise data. It is always, always messy.
It's never clean.
Now, why is a mixed language document such a problem for an AI? We need to talk about tokenization and semantic relationships for a second.
Okay, lay it on me.
When an AI reads a document, it doesn't read words like we do. It breaks them down into tokens, which are essentially numerical representations of word fragments.
What's the math behind the language?
Exactly. It relies on the proximity of those tokens to understand context.
So if words are close together, the AI assumes they are related.
You got it. So if you feed in the AI a document that alternates syntax and language mid-paragraph, jumping from Spanish legal phrasing to English translations, the AI's ability to map the semantic relationship between those concepts absolutely plummets.
This just gets confused.
Incredibly confused.
So most people assume that with modern AI, you can just dump a messy PDF into a folder, press a button, and the AI just magically figures it out.
That's the myth. Yeah.
To use our food analogy again, this is kind of like trying to read a recipe where every other ingredient is written in different language.
And the measurements keep switching randomly from metric to imperial.
Yes. If you don't painstakingly translate and format that recipe first, the AI is going to bake a total disaster.
Exactly. The AI will try to synthesize the Spanish context with the English context and will likely generate an answer that is structurally broken or just factually muddled.
Which violates the zero hallucination rule.
Right. This is why cleaning and restructuring mixed syntax data is the unsung, totally unglamorous hero of successful AI implementation.
So what did FOSS AI Labs do?
Before a single word ever entered HRM's new knowledge base, FOSS AI Labs built a dedicated, automated extraction pipeline.
Just for this?
Just for this data. This pipeline was designed to separate the languages, clean the formatting, and restructure everything into a fully usable, coherent, single-language document.
Wow. It is literally the digital equivalent of doing rigorous prep work in a kitchen.
Exactly. Mise en place.
Right. You cannot cook a Michelin star meal if your ingredients are covered in dirt and thrown in a massive disorganized pile. You
Yeah.
have to clean, chop, and organize first.
And that level of unseen rigor is exactly what separates a genuine development partner from a run-of-the-mill vendor.
A vendor would just skip it.
A vendor would have just uploaded the mixed language PDF to save time and then blamed the AI when it inevitably gave a bad or hallucinated answer.
Oh, it's just the AI acting up?
Right. But a partner like LowCode Agency recognizes that the data pipeline is the only way to guarantee that strategic bar of zero hallucinations. Garbage in, garbage out.
Okay, I get the prep work. We have this perfectly clean, beautifully structured, walled garden of data.
Ready to go?
But the next massive challenge is how the AI actually retrieves the right piece of information without ever guessing. Because even with clean data, Generative AI wants to generate. It wants to create.
It's what it was built to do.
How do you stop it? This takes us deep into the engine room to look at why architecture matters so much more than just prompt engineering.
This is where we transition from the data layer to the retrieval layer. The architecture built by FOSS AI Labs uses what's known in the industry as a RAG stack, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation.
More RAG stack. Okay.
But they went further than a basic RAG setup. They utilize structure-aware chunking and mandatory retrieval.
I want to stop you right there because the source material really hammers on this specific phrase. Architecture, not prompt engineering. For the listener who might be used to just typing clever instructions into a ChatGPT window, what is the fundamental difference there?
It is the difference between making a behavioral request and building a structural limit.
Okay, expand on that.
Well, prompt engineering is essentially begging the AI to behave.
Like saying please.
Exactly. You type, please act as a Mexican legal expert. Please do not make things up. Please only use the provided text.
I've definitely typed that exact prompt.
We all have. You are trying to influence its generative behavior with words. The problem is, under enough pressure or complexity, the AI will ignore your prompt and start guessing anyway.
Because it's still a generative model at its core.
Right. Architecture, on the other hand, is building a physical programmatic constraint. You aren't asking the AI not to make things up. You are engineering the software so that it is functionally incapable of answering without a cited source.
Which brings us to how they organize the brain of this AI, the process called chunking.
Yes, chunking.
Now, I've heard of chunking before. Usually, developers just chop documents up kind of arbitrarily, right? Like every 500 words is a chunk.
That's the standard lazy way to do it.
But the sources detail that FOSS AI Labs used structure-aware chunking. What does that mean in a legal context?
Think about how a legal document is actually written. It is highly structured. You have a title, beneath that a chapter, beneath that an article, and beneath that a section.
Right.
If you just chop a legal document into random chunks based on a 500-word count, you are going to sever critical context.
You'd slice right through a rule and its exception.
Exactly. You might separate an exception from the rule it applies to. For example, you might have a chunk that just says the penalty is 1 million pesos.
Yikes.
But the previous chunk, which got cut off because of the arbitrary word limit, contained the vital context of who that penalty applies to or under what specific conditions.
So if the AI only retrieves the chunk about the 1 million pesos, it might tell a client they owe a massive fine, completely missing the fact that the fine only applies to companies with, say, over 1,000 employees, because that context was in a different 500-word block.
Precisely. You destroy the semantic integrity of the law.
That's a huge risk.
It is. So by using structure-aware chunking, FOSS AI Labs split the documents strictly along their native legal hierarchy.
Keeping the natural boundaries.
Right. They kept the title, chapter, and article boundaries completely intact. The AI understands the full context because the native structure remains whole.
That makes so much more sense.
And to make it even more robust, they attached metadata to every single chunk, carrying its exact position and formal legal citations. So the system always knows exactly where a piece of information lives on the legal map.
Okay, so the library is perfectly organized.
Yes.
But when an HR director asks a really complicated question, how does the system actually find the right book and the right page in, like, milliseconds?
This is the retrieval funnel. When a user asks a complex question, the system doesn't just grab the first document that mentions the word hiring.
Right.
It does a first-stage retrieval, pulling up to 20 candidate chunks that might be relevant based on the semantic meaning of the question.
But 20 chunks of dense legal text is way too much noise.
Way too much.
The AI would just get overwhelmed.
Exactly. So the system then executes a process called re-ranking.
Re-ranking.
Right. It rigorously evaluates those 20 candidates against the user's specific question and aggressively narrows them down to just 5 or 7 highly specific, perfectly relevant chunks.
So it filters them down.
Yes. And those 5 to 7 chunks are the only things that make it into the final context window for the AI to read.
Hold on. Let's define context window for those who might not have built an AI app before. Is that basically like the AI's short-term memory?
That's a great way to think of it, actually. Imagine the AI is sitting at a desk.
Okay, picture the desk.
Its long-term memory is its pre-training basically the entire internet. But the context window is the physical desk in front of it. By using re-ranking, FOSS AI Labs clears off the desk entirely and places only 5 perfectly relevant legally verified pages of text right in front of the AI.
And this leads us to the absolute secret weapon of the entire build, the mechanism that finally explains your claim of zero hallucinations.
The Holy Grail.
It's called mandatory retrieval. How does this actually work?
It works by turning the AI into a very strict parrot.
A parrot.
Yes. Mandatory retrieval means the system is programmed so that the AI's generate function, its ability to write an answer to the user, cannot physically execute unless the retrieval function successfully returns a cited text from those 5 pages on the desk.
Wow.
The AI isn't allowed to rely on its vast generic pre-training. It can only summarize what is placed directly in front of it from the walled garden.
So it's an open book test, but with an incredibly strict rule.
Very strict.
The AI student is literally paralyzed. It's completely unable to write a single word on the test paper, unless its physical finger is pointing directly at the exact line in the textbook.
That is a perfect analogy.
If it can't point to the citation, it is forced to say, I don't have the information to answer that.
That is exactly the mechanism. The architecture completely overrides the generative instinct.
To pull off this kind of symphony, FOSS AI Labs didn't just use one standard AI model. This isn't just a basic ChatGPT racker.
No, not at all.
The sources detail a specific technical stack comprising 3 different models, each doing exactly what it's best at.
Right. Multi-model orchestration.
Let's break down this API orchestration because I think it really highlights what a mature build looks like. First, they used OpenAI Text Embedding 3. What is an embedding model doing here?
An embedding model is utilized for document vectorization and retrieval.
Vectorization.
Right. We talked earlier about semantic search. How does an AI know that a question about firing someone is conceptually related to a legal document about severance, even if the words don't match exactly?
Because firing and severance don't share any letters?
Exactly. Vectorization turns text into numbers and plots them on a massive multidimensional map.
Okay, I'm picturing a huge galaxy of dots.
Yes. Concepts that are similar in meaning are plotted close together on this map. So when a user asks a question, the system plots the question on the map and instantly grabs the legal chunks that are sitting right next to it.
Oh, wow.
Text Embedding 3 is the radar system. It is the core search engine of the operation.
Okay, so the radar finds the right chunks. Then they brought in Gemini Flash from Google.
Yes.
The sources say this acted as the main orchestrator. What does an orchestrator do in this context?
Well, Gemini Flash is incredibly fast and very cost efficient, so it acts as the traffic cop.
Okay, traffic cop.
It handles the back and forth conversation management with the user, making sure the chat feels natural and quick. But behind the scenes, it's also executing tools.
What kind of tools?
It decides when to trigger the retrieval radar we just talked about. It decides when the user has provided enough information to trigger an email flow, and it routes the final answer.
And finally, they used OpenAI GPT-4o.
The heavy hitter.
But they didn't use it to talk to the user. They used it specifically for that extraction pipeline. We discussed earlier the heavy lifting of processing and cleaning those bilingual, messy legal documents before they ever even entered the knowledge base.
What's fascinating here is the philosophy behind this multi-model approach.
Why not just use one for everything?
Well, a novice developer will usually just default to sending everything to one model, like a standard GPT-4 API, because it's easy and requires less coding.
Right.
But a mature development partner understands that different models have different strengths, costs, and latencies.
They specialize.
Right. GPT-4o is a genius at complex reasoning and translating, but it's expensive and slightly slower. Gemini Flash is lightning fast for natural conversation.
So you mix and match.
By orchestrating OpenAI embeddings for search, Gemini Flash for speed, and GPT-4 for complex data cleaning, they built a bespoke, highly optimized engine.
It's like building a high-performance race car. You don't get your tires, your engine block, and your onboard computer, all from the exact same manufacturer, if you want the absolute best performance on the track.
You'd never win.
You source the best possible component for each specific job and integrate them perfectly.
Precisely. And this technical marvel, this flawless, non-hallucinating, multi-model legal brain completely solves the expertise availability problem.
I agree. The tech is absolutely stunning. We have a perfectly accurate AI brain that is a brilliant parlor trick. But a smart AI doesn't automatically mean money in the bank.
True.
How does this actually translate into business growth? How does this solve the very real problem that HRM was only getting 20 leads a month?
That brings us to embedded lead caption.
Okay, let's get into the business side.
This is where the strategy-first philosophy really pays off. Foss AI Labs didn't just build a 247 legal encyclopedia, they built a revenue engine.
Let's walk through the actual user journey of how this captures value.
Okay, picture this. A prospective client lands on the HRM website. Maybe it's that HR director in Ohio, and it's 11:00 p.m.
Late at night, stressed out.
Exactly. They have a complex compliance question about severance pay. They ask the AI agent on the site.
And the agent does its thing.
The agent does all that incredible vectorization and retrieval we just talked about, finds the exact law, verifies it against the expert articles, and then it does something brilliant.
What does it do?
It doesn't just spit the answer out in the chat. It offers to send the fully cited, rigorously researched answer directly to their email.
We really need to analyze the psychology of this moment for the user. Why is a prospect so willing to hand over their email address here?
It's a great question because usually we hate it.
We absolutely hate filling out generic contact us forms on corporate websites.
Right.
We avoid it at all costs because we know it just means we're going to get spammed by a relentless sales rep trying to book a demo.
Just 15 minutes of your time.
Exactly. But in this scenario, the value exchange is immediate and immense.
Right.
The prospect is getting a highly specific, legally cited, actionable answer to a complex problem that is literally keeping them up at night.
It solves their immediate pain.
Handing over an email address for that level of bespoke, instant consulting feels like an absolute steal.
It's an incredible value proposition. The user gets their documented response with citations, so they can take it to their boss and actually trust it.
It makes them look good.
But HRM gets something even more valuable in return. They get a highly qualified lead notification delivered straight to their system.
And it's not just an email, right?
No, and this is key. This isn't just an email address with a name. This notification contains the user's specific question, their contact details, their geographic location, and the full transcript of the conversation they just had with the AI.
Think about how this fundamentally shifts the reality for the HRM sales team.
Oh, it changes everything.
In a traditional setting, a salesperson gets on a call and spends the first 15 to 20 minutes just doing basic discovery.
What are you trying to do? Where are you looking to hire? What specific challenges are you facing?
It is tedious data collection, and it frustrates both the buyer and the seller.
It totally flips the script. Usually a B2B sales call is like a really awkward first date where you're just probing, trying to figure out if you even want the same things.
Awkward small talk.
Right. Here, the AI goes on the awkward first date for you.
That's a great way to put it.
It takes meticulous notes, finds out exactly what the prospect's deep anxieties are, and sets up the second date.
So when the human sales rep finally gets on the phone,
They can skip all the small talk and step immediately into high-level strategic problem solving.
it is a profound elevation of the human employee. This is the absolute crux of scaling expertise without scaling headcount.
This is the whole point.
By handling the initial expertise distribution via the AI agent, HRM isn't replacing their human workforce.
No, they still need the humans.
They are doing something much more powerful. They are elevating human energy.
Elevating, yes.
The human experts are no longer wasting their valuable time on basic data collection or answering the exact same preliminary compliance questions over and over again.
Which leads to burnout anyway.
Exactly. They step immediately into high-value consulting, which is what they actually enjoy doing and what actually closes massive deals.
And we know this isn't just, theoretical tech optimism. The source material includes a fantastic testimonial from Franklin Delano III.
The owner of HRM.
Right. And what I found really interesting is that he specifically noted they engaged LowCode agency to develop an application not just for a flashy external lead magnet, but to deeply automate their internal processes as well.
It goes deeper than just marketing.
Exactly. They use this architecture to automate external data collection from new prospects, but also ongoing data collection and compliance checks for their existing paying clients.
That testimonial is vital because it highlights that this was a systemic operational upgrade.
A total upgrade.
It wasn't a marketing gimmick bolted onto the side of the business.
Yeah.
It was a fundamental overhaul that improved both how they acquire new business and how they service the complex needs of the business they already have.
The same clean data pipeline and retrieval architecture serves both functions beautifully.
So this elegant combination, the painstakingly clean knowledge base, the strict mandatory retrieval architecture, And the seamless, value-driven lead capture led to some massive, undeniable shifts in HRM's operational reality.
Transformative shifts.
I want to look at the market impact, because this is where the specialist really finds their ultimate weapon against the giants. Let's look at the before and after state.
Okay, let's break it down. The contrast is really stark. Before HRM was geographically constrained by office hours, their expertise basically went offline every evening at 6 p.m.
Right.
After the implementation, they shifted to a true, robust 24/7 global operation without hiring a single night shift employee.
And before, they got 20 to 30 inbound leads a month that required a human to manually qualify, which created this massive bottleneck. After every single interaction with the agent became an instant, qualified lead signal, automatically categorized and delivered to the sales team with full context.
Before, foreign prospects might rely on fragmented, dangerous Google searches.
The bad advice on forums.
Exactly. After, the information quality HRM provided was absolute, answers were exclusively sourced from verified, cited legal documents.
And to me, this is the most important one. Before, HRM's 16 years of deep proprietary expertise was basically invisible until you managed to get a human on the phone.
You had to take their word for it.
You had to trust their marketing copy. After the implementation, that massive depth became fully visible and demonstrable to prospects instantly, long before a human conversation ever even happened.
They proved their expertise before asking for the sale.
And that visibility translated directly into hard business results.
The numbers don't lie.
The headline number from the case study is staggering. A 250% increase in leads generated through the EOR specialist agent compared to the previous year.
250%?
And again, achieved with the strict architectural guarantee of zero hallucinations.
250% is a massive jump, but I have to push back again here.
Okay, play devil's advocate.
In the world of internet marketing, a 250% increase in leads can sometimes just mean you lowered the barrier to entry and let in a huge flood of tire kickers.
People who will never buy.
Right. A 250% increase in bad leads just means your sales team is wasting 250% more time. Are these actually good leads?
It is a critical distinction to make, for sure. But look at the mechanism of how these leads are captured.
Okay.
These aren't people who just lazily clicked a Facebook ad and auto-filled a form without thinking.
No, they had a conversation.
These are prospects who have already interacted intimately with HRM's expertise. They have asked a complex legal question and received a verified, cited answer to their specific compliance headache.
So they're invested.
They're entering the sales pipeline, pre-educated about their own problem, and pre-impressed by HRM's capability. They have the information they needed. Now they want to actually execute.
They're ready to move.
That is a fundamentally different, infinitely higher quality type of lead than someone who just downloaded a generic white paper.
This brings us to a brilliant strategic conclusion drawn from the source material. And honestly, it feels like a mic drop for boutique firms everywhere.
What is it?
The horizontal platforms Deal, Remote, Rippling structurally cannot build this.
Wait, really? They have billions of dollars. Why can't they build it?
It is a fascinating realization. The massive giants in the industry are trapped by the very business model that made them giants in the first place.
Their breadth.
Exactly. They operate by breadth. They have to cover 50 or 100 countries to justify their massive valuations.
Right.
To do that, they have to rely on generic AI depth to satisfy everyone globally. It is a perfectly valid strategy for sweeping market share, but it creates a structural barrier to extreme quality.
Because you can't be a master of everything.
Right. A company like Deal simply cannot afford the time or resources to build a hyper-specific, meticulously curated, bilingual, 16-year deep, multi-layered knowledge base for every single one of the 100 countries they check off on their drop-down menu.
It would take decades.
They are forced, by their scale, to give every client the same generic, generalized AI experience.
This is a modern David versus Goliath story.
It really is.
The specialist firm, HRM, doesn't beat the massive global platforms by trying to grow as big as them or by frantically expanding into 50 new countries.
That's a losing game.
They beat the giant by forging a highly engineered precision weapon. This bespoke AI architecture, built strictly around proprietary depth, is a weapon that Goliath is simply too bulky, too generalized, and too unfocused to wield.
That is the new battleground for professional services. Architecture around proprietary knowledge.
That's the phrase to remember.
If you are a specialist firm, you know you can't outspend the horizontal giants on global marketing campaigns, and you can't outscale their geographic reach.
Yep.
But you can absolutely out-engineer them on depth. You can take your hard-won, localized, proprietary knowledge and structure it in a way that structurally cannot be replicated by a company trying to be everything to everyone.
You win by being undeniably, objectively better at the specific thing you do.
Exactly.
Okay, let's bring this all together. What have we actually uncovered today?
A lot of ground.
We've learned that scaling expertise without scaling headcount isn't about buying a generic chat tool and just hoping it works.
Please don't do that.
It requires engaging with a genuine development partner, like Foss AI Labs, who truly understands enterprise risk. It means adopting a rigorous philosophy of strategy before systems.
Finding the exact business bottleneck before writing a single line of code.
Right. It means doing the hard, deeply unglamorous work of cleaning mixed language data pipelines. And it means building strict AI architectures like RGA stacks, vectorization, and mandatory retrieval, rather than just crossing your fingers and relying on clever prompt engineering.
And we've seen the definitive proof of what happens when you do that work. By transforming their 16 years of proprietary Mexican labor law knowledge into a 2Fine47 structurally sound AI agent, HRM didn't just solve a minor after-hours customer service problem.
No, they transformed the business.
They fundamentally changed their market position. They yielded a 250% increase in highly qualified leads. They elevated their human sales team from simple data collectors to strategic consultants, and they achieved all of this with zero hallucinations in a high-stakes, unforgiving legal environment.
It is an incredible, highly actionable blueprint for any specialized business listening today.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, we want to leave you with something to really chew on regarding your own day-to-day work.
Yeah, we've spent this entire discussion looking at how this specific AI agent automated lead qualification and the retrieval of complex legal information, which ultimately freed up HRM's human experts to do what they do best. But think about your own industry. Think about your own firm. Think about the 5, 10, or 20 years of deep, nuanced, highly specific knowledge trapped in the heads of your absolute best people.
The knowledge that only comes out when there's an emergency.
Exactly. If your company's deepest, most complex proprietary knowledge was flawlessly packaged into a digital agent tomorrow, an agent that never slept, never took a day off, and never hallucinated a single fact, what seemingly impossible high-level strategic problems would your human experts suddenly have the free time to actually conquer?
Remember that Michelin star chef analogy we used earlier?
The one where the regional chef is objectively better but can't feed 1,000 people at midnight.
Right. HRM figured out how to clone their master chef, perfectly replicating the recipes and the quality control, and open 1,000 kitchens that run 24/7.
It's amazing.
They built an engine that scales their genius. The question now is, what will you build yours for? Keep diving deep, and we'll catch you next time.